This is a quick update for version 2 of the new career mode sheet. I'm doing an early release for the EAFC24 sheet for people who don't want to move over to the new game or just want to start up now. And then when the EAFC25 comes out, I'll do a 2.5 with some further adds on from depending on what the new game will hold. So this is briefly going to go through all the new things that's been added and a few changes. So this page, team sheet, exactly the same as previous. You just get 3 drop down boxes. You choose your country when you want to play in. You choose the league, and then finally you choose the club, and all these details will fill in for you. As you can see, I've updated all the cups so they match up the right ones. I know the MLS was showing the wrong stuff. If some of the game, not only that you don't actually get a continental for some of the leagues, so I've removed those titles away. You'll see them depending on which country you click on. Yep. Management stat tracker is exactly the same. Player stat tracker, once again, exactly the same. Squad planner is a new one where basically you can just plan out your squad for the future. If you realise you've got a bit of depth on the left hand side, so left midfield, you'll be able to see that a bit more clearly. Yeah, this was something that was asked for, and it's just a very simple page. Once again, it's part of the optional, which you can now see is orange. Before I say the team sheet is now green, it has to be done. There is a reason for that, we'll go through it later. Staff, exactly the same. The only thing I've cleaned it up a little bit, as you can see here, it just shows the when you get the regions unlocked, and here it tells you now unlocks at which star. Just so people a bit more clearly when they're looking at this, I don't think people understood what the stars meant on here. Now it's just telling you you unlock this scout when your team is 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. So as you progress, you'll unlock more scouts. Same for the youth. Training, exactly the same. I've just added these boxes in now, so when you do your training plans for each week to get fitness or sharpness, you can put it in here. Development plans, you can track who's doing what developments and what position changes. I noticed that when I was doing my season, when it got to January, I'd select all players, and some of them was on the development plans, so I put this box to kind of remind me, because once they go, you can then replace it with another player instead. Youth squad, exactly the same, no changes there at all. This is a new page called board objectives. So what this is going to be replacing the board objectives in EAFC24, which apparently you can now turn off completely. So instead, this is going to give you more tasks to do, along with the season events, just to give you a bit more depth. Once again, it's optional. If you don't want to do that, you just ignore this page completely. So the reason the team sheet is now become important is because of what I did notice. For one of the board objectives, it's always going to be like whether you avoid relegation, you're fighting for a title. So this will now change dependent on your team's overall. So as you can see there, I've put a 73. It would be fight for a continental spot. So usually a top 4, top 3 placement. But if your team overall is a 69, then it's going to tell you to do a mid-table finish. Once you've achieved it, you can just tick box it off, and then do throughout the others. At the bottom here, underneath each one, so you've got the rewards and forfeits. So if you only achieve 1 or less of the objectives, you'll have to do a forfeit, which is the board lacks trust and reduces your wages by 20%. If you manage to do 2, you have to do nothing, and then if you get 3, you get a bonus for doing all 3 objectives. This one works for all 3 sections, so as you see, it's now got a board objective, you get fan objectives and team promises. So each one is from the team, the board, or the fans themselves. The board is always going to ask for a position change depending on your team overall at the start of the season. So if you haven't moved up and you stay on, say, 80, they'll always ask you to win a major trophy. So as you can see, this would be if you're a team in Argentina and you've got a team overall in 80. But if, let's say, we move to England, that's France, and then we go to the Premier League, so we're Bournemouth. Now, we've done well in Bournemouth, and we've managed to get up to an 80 overall, when I think they started like 77 or 76. I'm going to check that. Yeah, they started 76. So over the course of 3 or 4 seasons, you've managed to get them up to an 80 overall. So the board objective originally would have been, when you first start the season, would have been avoid relegation. Easy enough. But then when you got to an 80, it's now going to tell you a top half and a cup run to at least the quarters. So this is all going to be based now, as you can see, depending on which league you choose on the team sheet, will vary what objectives you're going to get. So it's correspondent, because there's no point in me saying in the Premier League you need to be an 85, I think it is, to get the objective of win a major trophy, which is basically your Man City's level. You're expected to win a trophy every season. There's no point you starting in the Austrian Bundesliga and their best team overall is like a 77 or 76. Then an 85 would, yeah, it just wouldn't work out. It had to be each individual league has got its own. So yeah, so when this team sheet now is important. So if I go to the Austrian Bundesliga now, and we'll just pick that team. As you can see, their team overall is 64. So when I go to board objectives, 64 is avoid relegation. But a 64 in the Premier League would be fight relegation, which means you're expected to get relegated. Here, you're avoiding relegation. That's the objective. So each of these will change corresponding depending on which league you're in and your team overall. So that's why it's important to do the team sheet if you want to do these. The next lot, Tactical Vision, Brand, all the rest of them are done in a different way, which is a randomizer. And the way that you activate the randomizer is by double clicking on there, and a drop down box will appear with a new objective. So now the board's Tactical Vision, they want me to play a Gegen pressing style, and if I achieve that, I tick it. The Brand, they want me to increase shirt sales. Let's say I've just passed that one from last season. We double click it, and then it's going to give us a new one to pop in box, and there, sign a player from Africa. So that'll be our new objective for the new season. Okay. That works for all of these boxes. The only one that's different is the competitions. The rest is self-explanatory. Each rewards and forfeits is different depending on which group it's in. So for the board, it's all about the wages. You get an increase or a decrease or nothing depending on how many you achieve. For fan objectives, they're all about your transfer budget, because it's going to be including you. If you're doing what the fans want, they're going to increase their ticket sales, merchandise. They're going to be happy. When they're not happy, they're not buying anything. They're not turning up to the stadiums. So then you get a reduction in your transfer budget. And then lastly is the team promises. So what this does is they'll ask you for things for them to do throughout the season to help improve the team or that particular player. As you can see here, anything that's kind of got in quotations player just means you're going to have to go to pick a player out from either do like a number generator. I'm going to use the season events to pick a player for me. But yeah, so when it'll say commas player in that there, it means you need to pick a player for this randomly, and then it will tell you what they want to do. So that player wants to help the team to more clean sheets than the previous season. Okay. The rewards and forfeits for the team promises are your overall. So on your normal page where you'd put your overall in, so you can look at, doing the renewals. So let's say your team's 80. If you failed the board objective, you've only managed to achieve one out of there. The next season, even though you are an 80, you're going to put yourself down to a 79. So this is going to improve your chances of persuading players to stay, and also attracting players from other clubs. Even though you are an 80, you're going to be a 79, or as the season progresses, you'll always be marked down one. If you manage to do all the three of the promises marked up, then you get an extra bonus on top of that. So instead of 80, you would have been an 81. Once again, this is going to help you keep players because they're happy at the club. You're doing things that they want to. They're achieving what they want to be there for. And the players that shouldn't be at your club will still be progressing to a level that they'll want to leave anyway. So it's a nice little bonus just doing it that way. What I will say is sometimes, as you can see, these little red triangles, and it comes up saying invalid, that needs to be shown for you to be able to change to the next one. If for any reason, let's just, Okay, so see here now, there's no red box. The reason being, it's good if you double tap that, you're going to get the exact same one from below. So this is a known bug. I've looked into it. There's no way of fixing it. So you've got two choices. You can either just do the same one again, or if you just do the tick box a couple of times, you can see the red triangle comes back, and then you can just choose something else. Either way you want to do that, but it's a known issue, just to be aware of. So realistically, you want red triangles always to be shown in the corners for any of these objectives. Okay, moving on. Season events. So this is exactly the same. I've just cleaned up the page. It's a lot more neater, and also I've got a new way of being able to track, because on the previous one, if you even touched a cell, it would change all the data, and it's a bit of a pain. So now when you roll, you get your player name, obviously they're from the side, which you filled them all in, the event and the multiplier. So obviously if it says so many weeks, you have to add the 5 times of 5 weeks or whatever. What you do now, you highlight all 3, press right click and copy. When you click onto here, you can right click and you can go to paste special values only, and that will fill in the data for you. So now, even though it's changed, you've got the event and you don't have to worry about it disappearing. Fill in the let's bits and the completed if you want to, and that's done. So that's a nice new easy way for the season events, and also the page is a lot more cleaner, just nicely tucked in underneath and moved around. Okay. On the normal page season, so on the results you've got that. Underneath you've got now a club achievement, so player of the season, you can play season. Mostly this is about tracking, so you don't have to do that, but it's just a nice little touch just to add in. On the right here, finances, pretty much exactly the same. The only new difference is you have now what's known as financial rules. So this is all dependent on the team sheet once again. So if we stay in the Austrian Bundesliga, as we can see at the moment, when we go there, it'll tell us the financial rules for that league. So in this Austrian Bundesliga, you can see for clubs in UEFA competitions, Champions League, Europa League or Conference League, rule limits spending on a player and coach's wages, transfers and agents fees to 70% of club revenue. They rolled at this threshold progressively, 90% in the 2023-24 season, 80% in the 2024-25 season, before applying the permanent 70% ceiling for the 2025-2026 season. Breaches will result in predefined financial penalties as well as sporting measures. So the way to keep track of this is this lovely one up here called the percentages of spending. So some people might have used it, some people haven't. This previous season income, as you can see, is in yellow, so anything in yellow you don't fill in. White you can edit wherever you want, but when it's yellow, do not touch. These contain strong formulas, and this applies to every other page on the sheet. So this one's going to take from your previous season's income, which would be here. So let's say it was for the Bundesliga, I have no idea, I think they gave about 10 million, isn't it? From income. So as you can see, it's now filled out in there, 10 million. The wages is taken from the P56, which is there, which will come from, quickly fill this in, so let's say 20,000, 13,000, 15,000, 14,000, and that will generate obviously your wages here weekly. And then back in your finances, you can then fill in your starting budget as normal, so minus 3224123, and let's say the transfer budget was 15 mil. Okay, so that would how you work out. Oh wait, sorry. There we go. So that would be how you'd work out your finances as normal. So over here, your spending, what it's going to do, it's going to go, okay, that's the income from the previous season, which was 10 million. That was your wages. Your transfers, which will work out how much you've spent from and received. It'll tell you how much total you're spending, which is your transfers and your wages combined, and that'll give you a percentage. So at the moment, the club is currently spending 32.24 of their previous income. So, under the rules, if a club is in the Champions League, Europa League, or Conference, for this particular one, that they would have to make sure it stays below the 70% if they're in the 2025-26 season ongoing. Obviously, if they're in the seasons before, they get 80 or 90, but as long as that stays below there and they're in one of these 3 competitions, they're fine. If they're not in one of those 3 competitions, there's no spending limit, it's just what money they have, and that's fine. Obviously, these rules will change as you change the leagues. So let's go to France, League 1, and we'll change to Metz. So when we go back, they have their own financial rules, and also they're very similar, where you can see it says for the clubs in UEFA competitions. So that one is any club that's always in a UEFA competition will always have that rule because it's something they're rolling out. But each league will have their individual rules. So as you can see here, for the League 1, it's clubs cannot exceed spending of 70% of their income. So once again, as long as you stay under 70%, you're fine. If you go over, then there's a forfeit, which has to be depending on how much, and that can be up to you. You can decide your own rules for that, or you can look into what realistically happens. The calculators have moved, so you can see the contract renewals over here and the averages over here now. This just frees up this area a little bit more. This works exactly the same way. There's been no real changes, so you can still see all your wages that you get. The one thing I have changed in the calculators, as you can see now, when you are selling, it's going to ask you how long that player has been at your club for. I haven't put on the buy-in because sometimes it can be a pain to work out. Try looking around on SoFIFA or wherever, or Wikipedia, or if they have moved in game, trying to work out when they moved in game. It's impossible. So instead, it's just on the selling transfer calculator. So as you can see, if they've only been at the club 1, it's a positive. I think that works all the way up to about 3 years. Once they hit 3 years, I think it starts getting, or is it 3 or 4 years? I think it's the 4th year. You start getting a negative effect because the player will start getting a bit grouchy and wants to move on. Obviously, if they're a low-rated player, they're going to want to stay at the club regardless. How many years they've been there, so that shouldn't have too much of an effect. But if it's a player who's high-rated, after 4 years, they'll probably start getting the itch to move on to a new club, to a bigger club, and give them a new challenge. So that's nearly then added for when you're selling your players. So you should see a little bit more movement in your own player area. I've also added it to the renewal. So now you put in how long the player's been there for, and that will also the same thing. If they've been there for fairly recently, they'll want to stay. The longer they're there for, the more negative effect. So yeah, that all works fine. Squad's exactly the same, no difference there. And then over here, the only extra put, so now you've got the average squad age. I've put that in because of some of the objectives ask you to put increase or decrease the average squad age, so you'll be able to work that out fairly quickly and easily, but just by putting the age of players in. So if you've got mainly 30-year-olds in your team, then obviously your average age will be that high. So as you can see, the average age at the moment is 29. So if it's a decrease, you'd have to sign players who are younger or sell older players. So that's in there. And then down here, you've now got the squad registration rules. So I think people ask for this because I explained how registration's there, but I think people got fed up looking for their own. So now each league will have their own squad registration rules listed here for you, so you don't have to go searching. So as you can see, for this Austrian Bundesliga still, now that we're in France now still. So France, they can have 4 non-EU players. In League 2, they can only have 2 non-EU players. It lists off all the countries that can not considered non-EU. That's fine, and then it tells you max 5 players loaned in, but you can only have 2 max players in from the same club, and then a maximum of 7 players loaned out domestically, so in France. And that's the squad registration rules. Once again, this changes depending on which league you're in. So if we move to Italy, in the Serie A, we can now go back and we can see that their registration rules are completely different from France's. They have, yep, as you can see, all listed. You just have to read through. And that's it for all the changes on this sheet now. This still works with EA24. Possibly 23 and below, I'm not sure, I haven't really tried, but for 24 it definitely does work. The board objectives obviously can be a bit of a pain because 24 still has their own board objectives. What I suggest is just kind of doing them in the background of your own game. But like if it says sign an Asian player, just sign the Asian player for a low-rated club and then release them straight after, but just not track it on the sheet. It's not important. It's just so the game doesn't sack you. But then you can still use the actual objectives on here. And finally, one last thing as well. The people was asking about like if they wanted to create a club or journeyman. You can. There's no issue with that now. So the way that this all works is because this team sheet now actually does things across the board of board objectives and on the season. If you do create a club, let's say you wanted to start in Germany, the second Bundesliga, what you'll do, click in the box but not the drop down box. As you can see, there's a little black bit to the side of it. Press delete and that removes that, so it just leaves the club and the league. Now that would be your starting club, so you still get your board objectives working as normal, but you can now essentially create a club and just work from there. You just won't have any of this nice little bit filled in for you because it's impossible for me to know what you're going to do. On the sheet you can see the rules change, and then let's say your created club has got promoted. All you need to do is come back here, just move them into the Bundesliga, and then the squad rotation rules will change for you and the board objectives will change for you as well. So that all works whether you're doing a journeyman or whether you're doing a creative club. You just don't fill in the club. Or if you're doing a journeyman, you're more than welcome to obviously, let's say we go to Italy and you start in the Serie B, you can put the team name Cosenza, but as soon as they move up a league or you move, that you'll just have to highlight the box and delete, so that way when you move to the Serie A, as you can see, all the things will work for you, but it just won't show your team there. But that's it. It's all superficial. Other than that, I've hidden some pages now which was previously locked. I've just hid them completely, so no one can really touch or mess with them, and that should be it. Thanks very much for this quick update. Like I says, there will be a 2.5 coming out when EAFC24 drops, but at least this will keep people going, I guess, or if people don't want to go to the new game. Anyway, thank you very much and enjoy.